Way! Football. That's right. This is NFL Straya, and I am your co-host, Jaymz Clements. You can see me on like a bunch of other shows as well. But I'm here in the fancy studio, the Sports Today studio, the Jaymz Clements Excellence in Podcasting Memorial Studio, to wrap up a big week of football. Because on the other side of this here screen is a bloke. He's out there. We've already moved past the tattoo along the schlong jokes over the years, but I don't know. His team's doing pretty well right now, and he's all fly Eagles fly, and he's suspiciously quiet for a 12-2 Gaz. But it is my mate, he's your mate, sometimes singer in a band called the Ramshackle. It's Gaz. What's going on, Gaz?
I want to get a highlights thing of this season where I started to get a little bit positive and you were laughing at me. I'm like, defense is starting to play well. And you laughed and said, you know what's the best, Gaz? When you've got fucking hope. It's just great to see you crushed. And I'm like, you know what? I'm having a good time, Jim. I'm having a good time. But what I've also done, those who were watching on YouTube, I've really cleaned up the beard. I've gone really, really thin because what's happened, Jim? Fucking Nicky Sriracha shaved his head in the bye week. And we haven't lost since. And I've somehow made it through to one of the dynasty playoffs against the number one seed. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to shave the fucker off. And then hopefully it's a good luck sign, mate.
Well, I mean, for a bloke who's always got his balls shaved, I mean, it just sort of, this was the next step, I guess. So.
It's inappropriate to show in public, whereas this is a little less, not much less offensive, Jim, some would say about my face. But I would hazard a guess that it's way less offensive than my ball bag.
I mean, you do say it's inappropriate, but it doesn't stop you. So anyway, this is the NFL Straya Week 15 wrap show. We've got 1 month remaining, less than a month now. We've got 16, 17, 18. It's going to be chaos. We're going to wrap up all the games. We've got the yeah-nahs. We've got the Dunsky check, but a couple of other good yeah-nahs in there. We've got the weekly awards as per usual. Quick fantasy check-in. And then an absolutely crackingly weird, I think this was a strange week for the simple fact we had some awesome matchups that promised a lot, and not many of them delivered that much. Whereas next week has got some crackers, so that should be pretty fun. All in one big, dumb NFL Straya package. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Episode 115 of NFL Straya.
Do it.
Let's go. Ha 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 ha! I'm going to score a touchdown. You can't catch me. Oh, fuck. G'day, this is Jonathan Taylor, and you are watching NFL Straya. Tell you what, Gaz, rough week for those crossing a goal line and not keeping hold of a ball. It's remarkable how often it actually does happen, though, isn't it? Like, it's one of those weird things like, hey, you're running, just keep a hold of it. A split second longer, it's like, nah, just not gonna. I've crossed that line. It's like, no, you haven't, dickhead. What are you doing? It's amazing how often it happens.
So that became one of Deshaun Jackson, who's got a lot of highlights in his career, Jim, but it always made every fucking highlight reel. That one stupid one that he dropped before. Like, JT, he's got a lot of shit going on in his career. And where was the other one? What was the one that went out the back of the end zone? Like, he went to change hands going into the end zone.
Flat out fumbled it, right?
Straight out fumbled and went straight out the back. And not only was it was a touchback, right? You're like, that's not fucking great. But yeah, learn to hold the ball. I bet he'll be carrying one around the facility for the while his teammates try and punch it out for the rest of the week.
I think, wasn't it the last time, like, someone was saying that they did it with their kid for like the next week. They carried them like a football. And it's like, all right, well, your teammates trying to punch that out as well? Like, what are we doing here? It's like, give me that baby. Bang! It's like, oh, just saying. Anyway, speaking of punching kids, Patrick Mahomes, he's in. I don't know if he's punched any kids, but I want to punch his brother. Patrick Mahomes, high ankle sprain, Gaz. We've diagnosed the diagnoses. My big question for you is, he's going to sit out obviously this week, you reckon. Is there any way in hell that Netflix lets him sit out at the Christmas Day game that they've paid $1 bajillion for? What do you reckon?
Look, I'm going to hazard a guess to say no. They won't let him do it. And also, the Bills are a sneaky 2 games behind, and if they lose this week, it'll be like whatever it takes to get on the field. But would Carson Wentz subbing in to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl not be the funniest fucking storyline? Carson Wentz doing a Nick Foles against the Eagles would be something. If you want me to have heartbreak, that is fucking it.
And look, I'm always rooting for Gaz heartbreak, so yes, let's do that. But, I mean, we've got...
Carson Wentz subbing in for him this week was fucking weird.
So, Christmas Day, we've got the 2 games, right? So, you got KC, Pittsburgh, and you got Texans hosting the Ravens. So, Netflix, this is the broadcaster, or streamer, as it were, that brought you the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. Would we see Jackson Mahomes just dressed up as Patrick and thrown in there and just like, off we go? Wasn't there there's some weird college QB who basically just has his entire thing down pat as well. Excuse the pun. But he's got the same haircut. He does the same ritual. It's genuinely strange because he's never acknowledged it. It's like, no. Dude, you're trying to be Patrick Mahomes. Stop being fucking weird. He's like, no. Who? It's like, fuck off, idiot. Like, it's crazy. But anyway, I feel like you could roll somebody else out there as the doppelganger, and it'd be pretty fucking funny. It just feels like something, from a movie by a streamer, which is pretty cool. Yeah. I like that. Anyway, what else we got? We had some other big weird injuries. Like TJ Watt and Geno Smith both went down this week as well. What's that? The same game. Both teams seem vaguely optimistic that they'll play this week. And if you saw the injuries, you're like, no fucking chance. So what's going on there?
TJ Watt was on a fucking tear. I think he had, 2 sacks in that Eagles game before that. And it was, we were at risk of him tearing us apart. And Geno, look, he's a fucking battler. Of all of the questions that you've had about Geno in his questionable years, he was always a tough prick, right, coming through that. So if he's got a chance to make that with the playoffs on the line in a very tight division, you got to think he's going to do everything to get out there. But tough one.
It is weird. And it's Dylan Raiola was that QB for Nebraska. So I feel like, oh my God, that's Dylan Raiola's music. Like, do you reckon he's going to get at least 2 calls this week from Netflix going, look, what are you doing Christmas?
Just fill in.
If you haven't seen him before and you're listening to this show right now, just Google it and just be like, that is fucking weird. Stop being weird.
Well, they're paying for name, image, likeness now, right, for college players. Could they just do a Simpsons over the top?
Not bad.
Anyway.
I like this. Deontay Johnson. So they don't want to waive him seemingly, Gaz. So because they don't want him to go to an AFC North rival or an AFC rival and play him again in the playoffs, you see. But remember how he suited up and refused to go in the game the other day. They suspended him for a week. And then John Harbaugh was basically like, I don't want to talk about that. He's been excused from team activities for the week after his suspension was last week. And they just go like, just don't come into work. Like, sure, okay. Christmas came early for Deontay Johnson, I guess. But it's basically the machinations are behind the scenes. Seemingly, they just don't want to lose him to like a rival and then him provide a bit of intel on the Ravens.
Obviously there was another one of those that happened this week that I don't want to go too far into. But for the Niners are going through somewhat of a similar scenario. At least with the Ravens, it happened during the game and there wasn't needed to be much said about it. The Niners have fucking let him have it. The players, his teammates. But like he was not really contributing too much. Deontay Johnson.
He had 1 catch.
Yeah.
Like he's played 37 snaps. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But Devondre Campbell, I like that. The entire thing is like he got suspended for 3 games basically for the rest of the season and they already cleared out his locker.
Yeah.
It's like on your bike.
Kittle was just like, I've never seen that before and I never want to play with a person who ever does that again.
Amazing.
And just fucking copped it from every person on the team. You're like, you're not coming back.
Yep.
Anyway.
Other gear, we had that crazy clock fuck up in Washington versus the Saints. I don't know about you, but it made me a bit angry because it cost me my Washington Commanders line, which was I had an alternate at 6.5. They were leading by 7. The clock fuck up allowed them to score a touchdown, and your mate Jim was not very stoked. So
yeah, but I was also, it made me interested in that game for the point I'm like, oh fuck, they got nothing to play for. They're not making the playoffs. They're gonna go for 2 here, and I'm like, oh, here we go. There were some puckered assholes in Washington that afternoon.
we'll get to that game in a second. Grant DeBose, the wide receiver for Miami, got knocked the fuck out. That was brutal. Never good when you've got the the boxing stance when you get knocked out.
Yeah.
It's basically brain trauma, which is not good.
Nah, because like I didn't see when it happened, but flicked to when they were carrying him off. And yeah, they had helmet, pads, jersey, undergarments, all off his upper body. And you're like, oh, fuck. They're not, usually they don't want to move their neck and take the pads off. So something's, yep. Anyway,
so fingers crossed he's all right, but jeez, not great. And then I guess we got more injury stuff. The other one I wanted to hit on was my man, Big Bill. We talked about this last week off to University of North Carolina. It was still a rumor then, and then it got confirmed again in just typical fashion for NFL Australia, like the day after we publish. But I enjoyed the sort of commentary around it this week of like, hey, Tom Brady, what do you think about him as a college coach? Well, he's a great coach, but yeah, he can be a bit not cuddly and stuff. It's like, yes.
So I have to question this. You've mentioned this in the injury section. Is that because of all the damage that he's going to do to his future college girlfriends?
Yeah, it's the damage that he's going to do to the 24-year-olds of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, all right.
Yeah, the graduate diploma program of rooting Bill Belichick is going to be a weird one. Just gross. But anyway, I do look. It still sits weirdly with me. For the simple fact of like, does he clearly not actually give a shit about the wins record now? Because maybe he looked at it and went, why bother? Because Andy Reid's going to track me down anyway.
Yeah.
So I could just like build a program, leave another legacy over here and just go, fucking told you that college is easy. But it's a weird one still. Well, what could you do? All right, injuries. This sucks. So we've already talked about like Mahomes, Geno, TJ Watt. How about Detroit, Gaz? Absolute chaos. David Montgomery.
We've been talking about it for weeks. I mean, what was it? Last week they had 15 defensive players on IR, and there was some posts on their social media this week about, reinforcements are coming about some of the guys that were coming back, mainly on the defensive side of the ball. And you're like, oh, fucking, here we go. And, the Bills' defense secondary was a bit beaten up as well. So you're like, all right, this is going to be a shootout. We'll get to the game later. But then this week, as you've just put down here, another 3 down, and then a pretty important piece on offense.
Yeah, Montgomery goes out with an MCL, which is just brutal. So he's done for the season. Khalil Dorsey was carted off the field as well. It's just like absolutely brutal gear. Yeah, McNeil hurt his knee, and he's been awesome. And Carlton Davis III also hurt his jaw. And like that was kind of it. You're like, there's like no one there anyway. And now they've lost another 3 dudes on the defense, and they've lost Montgomery. It's like this is the Lions. Doesn't this just sort of feel like a weird Kismet-y thing for the Lions? It's like, hey, we're having the best season like basically we've ever had. We're going to win the Super. The universe going, fucking settle down, Lions fans. It sucks. Anyway. Yeah. We'll talk about this again later, but yeah, it's not great.
No.
What else have we got injury-wise?
Oh, there's a couple of little ones. We've obviously got Nick Chubb broke his foot, so obviously the Browns, obviously he's coming back from something that was pretty brutal, pretty severe. And while it doesn't have any impact on the Browns season, apart from him trying to get back into it, it does have fantasy implications. So these are some of the ones now where you're like, all right, there was ones that were playoff affecting. But now we've got some that were a fantasy affecting, and you're like, oh, I'm one of those guys. So that's a bit of a dodgy one. And we had Zach Ertz went down. Actually, like the Zach Ertz one was pretty brutal because the catch that he made, like the one-handed over-the-top catch, back knowing that he was going to get hit was fucking awesome. And then as he got tackled, smacked his head on the ground. So he's out with a concussion, going to at least miss this week, where they just happened to be playing his former team in the Eagles. So, that's unfortunate. But there's a lot of end of season kind of wearing down, hitting the wall, soft tissue injuries that people going off, and you're like, oh, I don't actually know whether to report this or not because they went off, couldn't come back, but we might see them next week. Yeah.
Or maybe the Browns can go pick up Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he got waived, which is
that's pretty weird.
Never, I think hurt his knee, I want to say, a couple of years ago, and has never sort of gotten back into any sort of form basically for this Chiefs team. That he got jumped by Pacheco and just that was all over Red Rover basically. So bit of a weird one. I think that might have been it. Apart from the fun stat, we tracked this last year with Bryce Young. Caleb Williams has now been sacked 56 times, Gaz. That's tied for third most after David Derek Carr, the actual David Carr, who had the 76, and Bryce Young, who was on track to smash that last year as well, was 62. So I guess the question is, can Caleb get sacked 6 more times to overtake Bryce Young? And then you go, hang on a second, just a couple of dudes with Carolina draft picks getting killed. That's awesome. But not great for Caleb Williams, not great for the Bears. And especially long term. If you're the Bears or you're a Bears fan, you're like, dude, this team was meant to be set up nicely for him. And we're just got to hope that it hasn't fucking ruined him, in 1 year.
It's a pretty impressive stat because it means you've got longevity through the season.
Yep.
As in you just kept copping it left, right, and you'd be right. But look, let's be honest. We knew that what the Bears had invested in is pretty toys around Caleb, not protection of Caleb.
Yep.
Right. So we'll see how that goes over the next 12 months when Eberflus's replacement comes in and Mike Vrabel comes in and
fingers crossed.
We'll see how that goes.
And I believe Thomas Brown has now been since he took over the Bears, they've just gotten absolutely deleted in terms of the actual sort of scoring differential. Over those 2 games, it's this is absolutely. Oh no, he's actually got to 57, I think, Caleb Williams. He had another one. So in the time that I was reading that, he got sacked again. That's nuts. And where was it? Yeah. I did see the Bears didn't score again for the 3rd straight game in the first half. Not ideal. And then I think 65-19 under Thomas Brown. Jeez, that is brutal. Anyway, all right, let's do some Week 15 wraps. Hey, you remember Friday? Because this game sucked, 12-6.
Yeah, no,
Rams
I don't.
minus.
I seem to remember something about trying to forget it because it was a bit shit.
It was horrible. But the Rams won, so they're now 8-6. Seattle lose, and you're like, hang on, this is chaos again. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, anytime 4 field goals will win it for you, it's a gross game. But it was pouring down with rain in that first half, and it was the exact opposite of the prior Friday's game, which was awesome. This one was brutal. But I don't know, Shanahan, McVay, rad, nothing happened in this game. It was a slog.
No.
Kyron Williams topped 100 yards, but geez, everything else was horrible.
It's still weird to think that at the beginning of the kind of they cooked conversations in the beginning earlier in this season, we very much had the Rams up there because Kupp was out, Nakul was out, Atwell was out. The fucking just shit was not going right. And you're he's got no one around him. And then all of a sudden, they're fucking 8-6. You're in the thick of it.
If you go full Missy Elliott and flip it up and reverse it as well, that's the Niners, 6-8.
Yeah.
So they are the ones who ended up having the shit season. Washington 20, New Orleans 19. So Commies 20, Saints 19. Shouldn't have been that close, but it was. And as you said, absolutely puckered buttholes across the DMV just because Washington shouldn't have been in this position, couldn't close the door, were fucking kicking their heads in for the vast majority of this game and then completely shit the bed down. They hadn't scored in the first half. The Saints looked absolutely fucking abysmal. Kamara had like a couple of moments. He goes off injured as well. And this is what you alluded to earlier, right? People keep going off injured and you don't get reports because they're just like, oh, he might be okay for next week. You know, it's fucked. So anyway, and then out of nowhere, boom, boom, boom. The Saints are right there. They score a touchdown after they have the catch. And for some reason, and the officials came out after this and said, yeah, we don't know why we stopped that clock. It's like, you're the fucking refs. It's quite literally your job. Like, why did the clock stop? They're like, we don't know. Like, he just whistled it, stopped. It's like, the dude called the ball in bounds. It went down. Like, what are we doing? And they score a touchdown and then, of course, go for two. Go for the win. They don't get the 2-point conversion or else...
What a story.
It could have been so much more fucking just chaos. Insane. So
fucking chaos. But really weird, like all week there's the film shoots of that guy, that like Jake Hayner, and everyone's like, sorry, who?
Yep.
This guy who looks like a guy playing, like you talk about the movie playing the real life. He just looks like someone who was trying to play a football player because didn't look like he could throw. And then after 10 attempts, they were just like, yeah, no, that's enough.
We've seen enough.
We've seen enough. Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler's like, yeah, Spencer Rattler time.
Pick that we thought we'd take a chance on. Yeah, that we chose to not take a chance on when we're already out of the playoffs. Like, throw him in. Like, what the fuck? And they did, and nearly knocked off a playoff team, right? So, but that Saints defense being able to hold the Commies to 20 points is.
Well, it looked like they were going to run away with it. Like Daniels was scampering here and there, but like hitting McLaurin like almost with impunity early on. And I'm like, fucking let's keep doing this because I got the stack in my fantasy teams. Let's fucking go. And then it just ground to a fucking almighty halt in that second half. They couldn't run the ball. Like there was like fuck all Brian Robinson and shit like that. So Daniels kept having to do it himself.
8 sacks for that Saints defense.
Yeah. It was chaos. But anyway, Commies pull out the win.
Yep.
Just, I don't know. The Rizzler, it's probably something about like his brain waves are probably fucked from how low his ears are on his head. Like, just how I vibe on that. Cincy 37, Tennessee 27. I've written down this game was a crack game. Like everybody watching it is like, I feel like I'm on crack. Everybody playing is like, oh, this game is on crack. Are we all on crack? Like, it's just a crack game. Like, it was fucking stupid. Will Levis is just slinging it. It was a dumb.
Slinging interceptions.
Yeah. And like, since you're like, is our defense the best in the league? It's like, no, Tennessee's horrible. And then Tennessee, I'm already counting the fucking win. It's like I had the Bengals line and you're like, this is a lock. And then talk about puckered buttholes. I'm sitting there watching this at the end going, oh, are fucking Cincy going to ruin this for me? Like, what the shit? And then they just pulled it out at the end. They win by 10, but I mean, yeah, they were still, Tennessee were threatening right then to cover or at least get it back within like 4, just score a stupid touchdown, lose by 3. And you're like, don't do that, you fucking idiots. Your team is bad. Stop being this. And like, boom. 3 interceptions. Will Levis gets sat. They go, with Mason Rudolph instead. And Tony Pollard doing his thing. But yeah, Cincy, Jamar Chase somehow doesn't get a touchdown. T. Higgins does. And again, I'm just fucking angry watching my all touchdown scorer bet missed by 1. So thanks a lot, Jamar Chase.
Will Levis completed 8 passes of 12, but of those 4 incompletions, Jim, 3 interceptions.
That's almost going to be impossible to do. Like it's 8 of 12,
impressive.
But 3 of the 4 that you miss are INTs. That's
pretty fucking impressive.
But yeah, like even Joey Bo, smoking Joe Burrow threw for 271. He had 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions himself. So this game was off its fucking head, involving 2 teams that are now basically out of the race. But look, just
Bengals have got to be honestly the most talented on paper team to not But on paper, don't mean shit, right? But
Well, yeah, it doesn't mean shit if your defense is shit house, right? Speaking of shit house, Miami 12, Houston 20. Hey, I don't think either of these teams are good, Gaz.
No,
Right?
no,
Like,
no. I don't think no.
fucking Tua's quite literally trying to get dudes killed. Like, Tyreek Hill has got more fucking kids than catches, and you're just like, what is going on? The Dolphins, like, they couldn't get Achane off the fucking chain either.
No.
And
Waddle went off as well. That's the other something we missed in the injuries. But yeah.
And then Houston, like, you know my vibes on Houston. I fucking do not trust that team in the least. And now they've clinched the AFC South, which is more...
And have the same record as the Ravens.
It's more of an indictment about how shit the rest of the AFC South is. And also how the Texans have pulled a bunch of these wins out of their ass. But, like, CJ Stroud was fine-ish. Joe Mixon couldn't do shit. But it was just sort of like they did enough. And when I say enough, I mean they didn't do much, but they won. Like, it was pretty crazy. So, just a weird, gross game.
Yeah, 200 yards of total offense. Like, that's not net yards. That's total as well. Like, that's just, sorry, that's just 77.
That's throw up in your mouth vibes, that one.
77
Jesus.
yards rushing, 130 receiving. So that's not even counting the sacks. Yeah, it's not.
Yep.
It's not stellar.
No. Anyway,
But,
fuck it. Nico Collins, the 2 touchdowns. Everything else, just fuck all. And, like, Miami just did bad. Miami were sort of like almost going to play spoiler at times, and they were sort of still in this game, but they were so inept that they could never put it together. So anyway, KC 21, Cleveland 7. The Jameis pumpkin game, Gaz. We all sort of vaguely knew it was going to happen at some point because it's always going to happen. It's Jameis. But he got benched for DTR after he threw, again, 3 interceptions. And he got sacked 5 times as well. It's just, I don't want Jameis to be sad. I think that's just my thing. He's just such a, like, glowing bastion of happiness in the universe that when he's sad, it makes me sad. Good rejoinder.
I'm just saying, I'm just thinking about whether now's the appropriate time to bring up college charges.
Yeah, college charges, crab legs. Yeah, like, I don't know. We've got some, there's other things that are going on.
Yeah. But yeah, like there was just a bit of a, I jumped in to watch some highlights of this game and just wasn't enjoying it. Like Jameis, like the offense, I didn't expect much from this game because Cleveland, the Chiefs actually covered something.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing. So they're 13-1, and they just didn't like look that great, even though it never felt this game was in doubt.
Yeah,
like it's only a 21-7 win, but it felt way more than that because Jameis kept throwing the ball to the other team.
Yeah.
It's like there was like even like watching. So I watched a bunch of this one because it was there, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. But there was like even the announcers like, Jameis just didn't see that guy. It's like he was just sitting under the route and just went, oh, okay, well he just threw the ball to me, and Jameis was like, oh. Did Jameis do bad? And it's like, yes, Jameis did bad.
Jameis did bad.
Yeah. Good defensive. I mean, look, it's an opportunistic defense. Sometimes the Chiefs won, but they are also pretty fucking good. So, yeah, you held this explosive Browns offense to 7 points at home. So you've done good. Dallas 30, Carolina 14. The upset that wasn't, Gaz. Cooper Rush is alive. They can run the ball. Rico Dowdle, 149 yards. Dallas. Look, this is also a great time of year because when they throw the In the Hunt graphic up on the TV, Dallas is still there.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
It's like,
it brings me
playoffs,
so much joy. It brings me so much joy. I haven't looked it up recently, but I'll do that while we're talking. But the Cowboys, so the Cooper Rush's record as a Dallas Cowboys quarterback now is quite ridiculous because I think he was 5-2 before this season, and now they've gone on a bit of a fucking run, and it's great because I'm still going to make my multi for the wins in the NFC East because Eagles are going to hit over. Eagles have hit over. Washington's hit over. Dallas is hitting under, and the Giants are hitting under. So this is going to be fantastic. And yet they're going on a late season run that doesn't fucking matter for anything except screwing up their draft capital, Jim. They're currently, this is what I was looking up, they're currently sitting 14th. They're going to miss the playoffs. They're in cap hell with only one real wide receiver who is awesome. But the fan base is going off their heads about Dak. You've had what? We've got I've gone fucking blank. Diggs is gone. We've now got Overshawn's done fucking every ligament in his leg known to man. So he's got a big callback. Their defense is stronger with Micah, but there's injuries all over the building for next year. They've got long-term injuries and they're in cap hell. And it's taken them 3/4 of a season to realize that the Outlook can run the ball.
It's amazing.
That's fucking such a weird team, man.
They're 6-8. And they're going to bring back Mike McCarthy. It's going to be the funniest shit in the world.
Fucking so good.
I love it. Just wallowing in the filth. Flip side, Carolina are just, that was a bit of a Bryce Young back doing Bryce Young.
Yeah,
he looked little again. I don't know how to explain it. He just looked little again.
Yeah, look, to be honest, and like, to be fair to Micah, as much as I give the Cowboys shit, like some of him coming off the edge and breaking through some of like Bryce barely had fucking a second to take the snap, and Michael was fair square up his ass. So so it'll be really. I really enjoy Micah in the playoffs next year when he's not playing for the Cowboys.
But the crazy one was like the Panthers just couldn't run the ball on the Cowboys at all, and like Chuba couldn't do shit. Bryce Young too small, got sacked a bunch, and pack her up, boys, you're done.
Yep.
Good job, Dallas, getting to 6-8. I love that. It's just kissing fingers emoji. We also then had the Jets, Jacksonville, in a congrats everybody game. Awesome. 32-25. Awesome, Jets. You won. I love that because you're idiots, and it actually puts them up to 4-10. My beloved Patriots are currently in tankathon levels of third overall now at 3-11. We're going to play all the 3-11 drops all at once because all the teams are at it. But Mac versus Aaron Rodgers, the showdown to break all showdowns, really. It was like every time they're like, all right, now the Jets have got a chance to get their way back into the game. And you're like watching old-ass Aaron Rodgers go, oh, I don't want to do this. And then he just went, fuck it. I'll throw it to Devontae Adams a bunch. And then he set the record for most receptions in the final 4 minutes of a game.
Yep.
Which is
that
just
fuck, I got it. Like that pass, the touchdown pass to Devontae Adams was like as good as any peak Aaron Rodgers pass. Like over the top, just fucking reached out so no one else could get it except Adams. Reached out, hit him in stride, fucking bust through. Little bit of a move and fucking into the end zone.
Ends up with 198
holy
yards.
Shit, 198 yards. And you're like, oh, Aaron Rodgers. Like, yeah, no worries. Dynasty League, putting up 30 points. He's barely able to crack fucking double figures all year. 30 points on my bench. Thanks, bud.
I think it's one of those amazing games where if you didn't watch this, you'd be like, wow, he had a really good game. No, he was fucking horrible. So he goes 16-30. But ends up with 275 yards because Devontae Adams just goes completely fucking off his head. He's just like, oh, I'll just keep throwing it at him as much as possible late. And he just kept fucking catching it because he's that good. And outside of that, he'd just be like scrambling, I don't know what I'm doing, throw the ball away. Oh, throw the ball away. And Mac Jones like, check this out. I'm going to be even shitter. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, was just fucking horrible. But also threw for 285 yards because Brian fucking Thomas Jr. had a massive day, rips off 105. And this turned into like the world's worst shootout, basically.
Yeah. You know what's not going to be good for your long-term sustainability, Jim?
What's that?
When you're 40-something-year-old quarterback coming off a busted-ass Achilles is your lead rusher.
Yep, not great.
45 yards, 6 carries. Like, no, Aaron, Just no. Just don't. So anyway, you've snuck through 4-10. Season's over. Bills are done. Like, just pay for draft picks. Work out. Be healthy. Work out where you're going next year, Aaron. See you later.
Baltimore just kicked the shit out of the Giants, 35-14. Absolute laugher. Poor one out for Tommy DeVito. He got hit, I think, as well. Was off in the concussion protocol. Looked pretty brutal too, so not great. But, yeah, otherwise this game was horrible.
Yeah, it was like there wasn't much like to do. 21 of 25 passing for 5 touchdowns, Jim.
Not bad.
290 yards. Like, Lamar is you've got to think he's actually playing better as a passer than he did last year.
Yep.
In his MVP season, right? The touchdowns, most passing touchdowns in the league. Obviously, Josh has got he's got more rushing because he doesn't have Derek fucking Henry. But like Lamar he's not even in the MVP conversation. Wait, he's on the outer of the MVP conversation because of what Josh Allen's been fucking doing, right?
Yeah.
But what Lamar, some of the pinpoint passes, the one to Bateman in the end zone was just pretty because there was no one else that could get to it. Mark Andrews' touchdown had him the most touchdowns by a Raven now, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway. So, yeah, happy days. Big, easy game for Baltimore, and now they're only 9-5, but keeping the pressure on the Steelers. After the Steelers lost, obviously the Steelers got clinched the playoffs, but that division's still open.
Because they play.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Indy 13, flip it up and reverse it, Denver 31. Speaking of flip it up and reverse it, so this entire game flipped completely on its head with the Jonathan Taylor dumb play of just running across the goal line but dropping the ball.
Uh-huh.
Up until then, Indy were dominating. And then they just went fucking completely off their heads, doing the double reverse plays that are getting picked off, and Nix was throwing interceptions left, right, and center before that.
That was just let's pause for a second there. Like, that has to be the dumbest fucking play of the year. And that was, for those who didn't see it, that was a pass out to who was it? To wide receiver?
Yeah, I think it was a Pittman. I don't know.
Maybe. Who's then gone to pass it back to Richardson, both back passes, so still enabling the forward pass, but then got intercepted on its way to Richardson and returned for 6.
I think it was A.D. Mitchell, maybe. Ooh, who threw that? Fuck me.
Because they're both reverse passes, so they're backwards passes. They don't come as a... They don't
INT, it's a lateral, isn't it?
Yep.
But either way.
But that was just the fucking dumbest because it was just, that was 6 points right there. And then obviously Bo Nix kind of played like shit. Watching these two, like, obviously the offensive rookie of the year is still open and a big debate on Jimmy's little fucking reels of NFL Straya. One team snuck over the Saints and only put up 20 points in the high-powered Washington offense. And this one, Bo Nix came out and threw 3 picks against a team that's not really known for their defense this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, so if you were wondering, my cash out for that offensive rookie of the year has skyrocketed once more because Bo Nix was that bad in this game.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, so it's like it's crazy that it's turning into basically similar to the MVP in like a week-to-week proposition, but yeah, he was very bad. 121 yards, 3 interceptions, but 3 touchdowns because he was horrible beforehand. Indy were crushing it, and then it all went to shit. So amazing work by Indy, hilarious. But that's Denver basically. This was essentially a playoff game for both teams. So Denver essentially booked themselves in, and India essentially knocked themselves out. So great job. Especially with the Chargers losing, like it essentially locks in Denver with the spot. So great stuff. New England, Arizona. Not much to talk about here.
No.
They were just
honestly.
Pats were just not very good.
No.
Got like Drake May had a couple of moments where that's good, and then the rest of it I'm like, Jared May is an idiot, and this is horrible. So just had a like pretty bad interception. Outside of that, nothing much really going for the Pats. They're 3-11. Love that. Cards. I mean, what? Basically, you still had Gonzalez absolutely blanketing Marvin Harrison, which is good. But then they got ran over by James Carlton for a couple of touchdowns, over 110 yards. And that's exactly how you envision. Well, that's how the Cardinals win games.
Yeah.
And that's how the Pats obviously sometimes.
And Trey McBride. So Trey McBride's averaging 8 to 9 points in fantasy, and that's non-PPR. Hasn't scored a touchdown this season.
What?
Everything is like 89. This game, 87 yards. It's just 9 receptions, 10 receptions, 8 receptions, 70, 60, 80 yards. It's just on the reg. It's fucking wild.
But
anyway.
Yeah, like watching this game, I'm like, yeah, look, Drake made it feels like what is the it's like that meme where you've got like it's like a Maserati or whatever, like the awesome car and like the shit house.
Yep.
It's almost what that feels like now. But the house is Jared Mayo and his big dumb head.
Yep.
Because they're just shit house. And it's like it is depressing to watch your team just be really just inept. Like bad is fine, but inept at like real basic shit. It's like if you're watching the Raiders, they're inept and shit. And like that's what the Pats are trending towards. But the Pats have a good QB and fuck all else really, it feels like. So anyway, it's just a bit of a sad. Look, I'm a Pats fan. I can't be that sad. We fucking count the rings vibes, right? So it's just watching it is frustrating, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to get too bent out of shape. I would be bent out of shape if I was a Chargers fan. 17 points. Tampa Bay, 40. Jesus. It just feels like a game like this, they just don't have enough on offense to keep up with the team, right? And we keep seeing this happen now time and time again for the Chargers, where because they've lost, J.K. Dobbins and just they don't, without being able to establish the run, they can't get anything else going with that offense, Gaz. It's weird.
Yeah, there's that said, the Bucks are pretty well, actually Mike Evans is still good at football, right? That's what I got out of this one. He's back. Realistically, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should have run away with this division once you take this season from a helicopter view, because they went for a period of injuries in the middle where you're just like, oh, they're fucking cooked. But before that, and since they've got some people back, they're fucking decent.
Yep.
With these Chargers, we've been looking at that defense and going, you know what? If they can keep it close enough, they've got just enough to get people to get over the line. If they lose their hold on the opposition offense, they're fucked, right? They can't play from behind. That's
exactly right. They were up at the half, 17-16, and then didn't score again.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay just kept piling it on.
22 or 27 for Baker. Yeah.
Unreal. It was pretty good. 4 touchdowns. He crushed it. Bucky Irving running over the top of everybody. Good win for the Bucks. 8-6. Back in control-ish of like that entire fucking division is chaos now because they're 8-6. You've obviously got Atlanta at 7-7 now. Eesh. You got to keep winning. It's simple as that. Anyway, Pittsburgh, Philly, 27-13. This was a fun game to watch. And then you're like, I don't know if Pittsburgh are any good because your team just ended up walloping them.
Mate, it was honestly a dismantling. It was the best I've felt about a game all year, and we just came off beating the Ravens, right? Like, it was really fucking good. From the beginning, we moved the ball, which was nice. Fun fact, Jim, in a move that surprised no one after the Eagles were coming out saying there's not really much drama about this, about Jalen and AJ will be fine. Guess who he threw to? A fucking lot, Jim. A lot. AJ had 110 yards, 11 targets, and most of those were in the first half. It's just like, I'm just going to give it to him and get him in the end zone, and then we'll be fine. But also Devontae had 11 receptions, 109 yards and a touchdown. And they just came out after hearing all week that the pass game is fucked. And they went, Pittsburgh's an elite run defense and are not that great in the secondary. And they just came out and passed. And Jalen Hurts had 290 yards, but I think 220 or something ridiculous of those were in the first half.
Nice.
Saquon did not much, but it wasn't required. That was fucking great. Obviously, TJ Watt going off was like that helped, but they left Lane Johnson on an island, and he got 2 sacks, but that kept him to enough. And realistically, the Eagles just held them off. It was really, puckering arsehole time at the beginning because the Eagles had 2 fumbles early, which was not great. But even after that, we managed to keep it to 3-3, and that was good. But the key thing in that second half was the Eagles got the ball back with 10 and a half minutes left in the game, and the Steelers didn't touch it again.
They touched it twice in the entire second half.
Yeah.
It was insane. They ran 2 series. That was it.
That's it. So 10 and a half minutes.
2 possessions, rather.
Yeah, 10 and they didn't give it up, and it was a little bit of passing, but then it was also some awesome moves from Kenny Gainwell, who's our little backup, a little bit from Saquon, and then they sat on the ball in the last 2 minutes, like inside the red zone, like they could have scored, but obviously, what's the point? And it was just great to see against a significant team at home. I don't know. I was pretty happy with the performance.
Buffalo 48, Detroit 42.
What a fucking ridiculous, off its head, crazy, awesome game of the year. This is fucking wild.
It was, my biggest problem going into this about, I think we both tipped Detroit, is that, the Bills defense has a bit of, holiness about it, and they've played a lot of games in a very short amount of time. And Detroit rang up 42 on them. Unfortunately, Detroit have no guys left on their defense and gave up 48. And yes, that's a problem.
Jared Goff had 500 total yards.
Jesus.
And 5 touchdowns and fucking lost.
Absurd. Absolutely absurd.
And it was crazy. You'd think that Buffalo had no chance of giving this up, right, at a certain point. And then the Lions marched down the field. Dan Campbell is copping a shit ton of grief about the first onside kick, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
The early onside kick that Mac Hollins picked up and ran back to the 5, Jim. You're not expecting to lose in coverage of an onside kick usually.
It's really hard to. Yeah, because
your guys are right there just to jump on them.
Everybody's literally going to that ball right there and then. And anyway.
So it's supposed to, they'd obviously skipped nicely. They got down, but still they turned that around and you're like, oh shit, there's a bit of time here. Then they, it was with 12 seconds to go. So even at best, it was going to be getting that over the line and, getting the onside kick. And then it was a Hail Mary, but Josh Allen was just absolutely fucking mind-blowing in terms of both his scrambles and even when he was on the run, the passes that he still came off with, 362, 2 touchdowns, and then another 68 and 2 touchdowns to go on top of that. So
the Shakir
MVP fucking sewn up.
The Shakir touchdown was absolutely awesome. Some of the passes to Coleman and shit through the middle, you're like, God damn. So anyway, love that. Good game, fun game, 48-42, bloody hell. Detroit now 12-2 as well. There's a bit of a sniff for that one, so Gaz. Green Bay 30, Seattle 13. This was just a bit of a, this game was off its head as well, but it was more that, I don't know, Green Bay just kept doing cool shit. Dobbs is just taking some of the most insane fucking catches you'll ever see. And you're like, this is awesome. So that was fun.
And Jacob is still pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I don't know when he turned into prime. He has these moments where he's just such a weird runner because he's not a big bash and crash him Derrick Henry type, but like Le'Veon Bell sort of sneaky, but also I just got 8 yards and you can't stop me kind of vibe, right? It's bizarre. He's really, really bloody good.
Yep.
You had the sad Seahawk, which is pretty weird. You had it's in Seattle, right? And it's like the side of the Foul Mary. It's a night game. I think that was on Monday Night Football. And did you know that they throw fish in Seattle, Gaz? I don't know. I've never had that brought up on a broadcast before.
No, I didn't. I did not know that they throw fish in Seattle.
At the markets, like a lot of fish.
Oh, I know that they throw fish at the markets. I thought you meant like it was like, in
Nashville,
hockey where they throw it over the.
They throw the catfish on the ice in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this was just kind of like Seattle. I expected more, right? Their defense, but I kind of always thought this was coming because I have loved Seattle most of this season, but you could always sort of see just how holy this defense can be sometimes. And if, Geno goes out, suddenly it's Sam Howell's time and you're like, oh, that's not a good answer. So they just couldn't quite get the run dominating Green Bay. And every time Green Bay was sort of like, it's fine. Jordan Love will do some cool shit. And Watson and Dubs were just crushing it. So,
dude, this defensive stat line for Green Bay Packers, 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 7 passes defensed, and 12 fucking QB hits.
Jesus.
Geno just didn't have fucking time. Like,
yep.
What do they say? Leave Geno alone, give him time, and he'll pick you apart.
Yep.
Put him under pressure. Fucking see you later.
Nice one. And then today's games, we have Minnesota 30, Chicago 12. This was just a shit pumping. They killed the Bears. Caleb Williams killed. Depressing vibes. Sam Darnold, though, like we got the love to Randy Moss from Justin Jefferson in that one with the touchdown, which is very nice. Aaron Jones dominated, but yeah, the Bears are a write-off. 4-10, obviously their season's been over for a bit, but that was just a bit dispiriting. And then another brutal one. It's like, this is the first night game here in Vegas this year. And you're like, yeah, they're 2-11 and now they're 2-12. And yet they still had a chance to win it towards the end. You're like, oh God, this game is horrible. 15-9. Atlanta, just, you want them out of their misery, right? But they just keep beating shit teams.
Do I want Kirk out of his misery, Jim? 112 yards against the Vegas Raiders without Max Crosby. Like,
what are you doing?
No, they paid this stats machine to come in and take him to the playoffs, and now they need help from fucking Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Like, it's fucking weird.
It was gross. Desmond Ridder, I don't know if he's probably not the answer at a guess.
No, that's all. And they admitted, like in the broadcast, they were talking about like they're all just waiting to see who they can draft.
Yeah.
Like there's no one on the team who is an answer in this. You've got Brock Bowers is set up for the future, but realistically, everyone else is expendable, right?
I did love this. So I think was the first set, they got to a 4th and 1 on their like own 35 or some shit and went for it. And you're like, yeah, why the fuck not? Like,
why the fuck not?
2-11. And they kept going. You're like, oh, this is pretty. Oh, he's fumbled. And you're like, yeah, that's the Raiders season right there.
As I said to you at the end of this game, I was like, fuck, I didn't see much of this game. I was chipping in and out, and I tuned back in for the last like 2.5 minutes. And I'm like, I was tuned in for the last the punt away from the Falcons, and I'm like, oh fuck, he's got 2 minutes here. Like, let's give it a crack because they've got nothing to lose. They're not they're not holding back, but it just kept like, in your last 2 minutes, there's a false start. Oh, it's a 10-second runoff.
Well, they started the game with a penalty. Like, what the fuck? It's the worst coached, most inexcusably shithouse team there is. Like, it's unbelievable. And yeah, that finishes with the interception right at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, they did get it enough time. Myers and Abdullah, like that last drive, it was kind of one to the other and all this sort of stuff. And they actually made it a decent way down the field. That the last two shots were only from about 35 out.
Yeah.
The first one got dropped and he got to go for a second. But as they said, like, you got Brock Bowers, who's like rookie of the year, 100 and fucking whatever receptions, and you're like, he's not the one in the middle going for the jump ball. So,
yeah. Absurd. Anyway. Horrible team, horrible game.
Yeah.
Let us never talk of it again. Apart from just the play-by-play. Fumble, punt, touchdown, field goal, punt, safety, which was funny. They just ran them all back. Punt, interception, blocked punt, field goal, punt, field goal, punt, interception, missed field goal, touchdown, punt, interception. That is a hell of a day. Hell of a day.
Yeah.
For one of the worst games you'll ever see. All right, let's do some yeah-nahs.
Ones it's related. I'm going to jump in first, Jim, because kind of related to one of the ones that you've got listed, but with more detail. I got one from Jaymz this afternoon. Jaymz, fantasy football superstar and listener of the show, who's going to yell at me if I don't mention it. Is the MVP Josh Allen to lose at this point? Yeah, nah. If he has two stinkers and Mahomes keeps winning, is that the only way he's beat? Fucking no. Mahomes does not deserve anywhere in this conversation. Lamar, though.
Yeah.
Right? If he has two stinkers and Lamar plays like he did this week, fuck, you got an argument there. I think the pressure's off. Is off Saquon. I think this week it was like kind of, all right, he needed to average 121 for the rest of the season. He was on 124 on average. Drop back, take the pressure off, blah, blah, blah. But this is a 2-horse race now. And you feel like...
Yeah, if Jared Goff hadn't lost this week, like the dude threw 5 touchdowns, 500 total yards, but because his team loses, like it's just that little bit more of a kick in the dick, right? It's just
there's also the flashiness that comes with what
Josh Allen does,
what the other two do, and that even Lamar, right? Like there's so much like that play this week, which was what was it, 35 yards, and he actually slows down and lets the defenders overshoot him and like jukes them while holding his pants for some fucking reason.
Yeah, his pants are falling down.
Yeah.
Mate, he might have shit himself again. We don't know.
Again. So. Yeah. But like all of that
you
sort of
try
stuff,
running with a log in your dax. Come on. Jesus.
I have, mate. I've run a marathon. Remember that.
Right. The correct answer was there. I do, Jim. It's called my dick. And you're like, touche.
Sorry.
But
yeah, you look at that
actually
and you're
shitting
like,
yourself while running.
Like this is not Mahomes' year. It's not. He's been kept in it all year by his defense.
It annoys me because I've got a future on Mahomes from the start of the season for MVP, and yeah, he's just not even touching it. So for me, it's like Josh Allen, Lamar, Goff, weirdly enough, Baker, very close in there too, but still, Josh Allen's MVP to lose. Yeah. Hey, Lions. Too many injuries to make some noise at this point. What do you reckon? Yeah, no.
They got a big showing. The big test's going to be week 18, right? They're going to come in. It seems like right now, all things being equal, they'll be playing not only for the number 1 seed because they've got that game over us. They're over us even on the even record. But they're playing for their own division because they finish in against Minnesota, right? So if they can't get some health back, and they drop that game, well, it's a lot different coming through Ford Field, playing indoors with that offense and a bunch of injuries versus having to go away at the Link or Minnesota, or Green Bay, right?
You've kind of nailed this because they're 12-2, but guess what the Vikings are?
12-2. Because the Eagles are 12-2.
The Eagles are 12-2. So there is so much more riding on this entire thing because they lose out from here. Like they will drop to the 5 seed. because your division winners got the top 4. And so you'll have the NFC West and the NFC South winners with a substantially shitter record than the Lions, be seated over them because they're division winners. So you're suddenly playing against like maybe the Rams in LA, or maybe, which you probably feel okay about. Like you're like, shootout against the Rams, fucking let's go. But Tampa Bay, you're like, oh, what the fuck did we do to deserve this? Like, because that Tampa Bay offense, we know it can get going, but their defense is solid as well. So it gets very fucky really quickly for Detroit. And I want to just still be like, we still love Detroit, but wow, does it get hard from here on out, right? Like, because they've got the Niners, I think it's Bears, Niners, Vikings that they've still got. And Bears, you're laughing, cool. But the Niners are just a spanner in the works at the best of times, even though they're shit this year. But then you got the Vikings showdown. So you could easily lose the 1 seed. You could drop all the way to the 5. And if you lose that Niners game as well, look out, because like Green Bay will be right there. You could be a fucking 6 seed. I don't know.
But add some spiciness to this, right? So the Packers have only lost to Eagles, twice to the Lions, once to Minnesota. They got Minnesota again. So there's a potential that Green Bay may knock off Minnesota. Minnesota may knock off the Lions. And all of a sudden, this top of that division is all real fucky. Well, we've got to play the Commanders, so we could drop that.
Hey.
And then so this end of the season is it's almost like they design the NFL schedulers design all the spiciness at the end, Jim.
Like it. There was this out before, I think this week, that the entire the top 3 teams of the NFC North were like 28-3 against everybody not in the NFC North.
NFC North, yeah.
They're just beating each other up. Like, it's awesome. But I guess that leads into the final yeah-nah here. Like, is this the most wide open season you can think of? Like, no one feels unbeatable in my book. Yeah-nah.
Yeah, and even like no one feels unbeatable. And also, there's so much up for grabs. NFC, definitely. I mean, you've already got a couple of divisions that are being run away with in the AFC. And they're the usual suspects too, right? Like, but all of a sudden you've got the Steelers, who are a perennial playoff favorite, a playoff team. But all of a sudden they're like, no one expected them to be leading the division. We thought, we'd said all along that they'd start off well and then fall off a cliff. Well, they haven't until this week. Be interesting. They've still got to play the Ravens again, right? Yeah, but you don't feel anyone is unbeatable. But it feels like this week, when we're talking about some cracking games coming up, but some teams are definitely starting to split themselves apart, right? All of a sudden, the Bucks in that division have been fighting it out for a little while, where you feel that they're starting to pull it away from the South. But the teams that we had as the top, say, 5 or 6 last week are still the top 5 or 6, right? The Steelers lost, but they clinched. You've still got the Ravens. Like, no one's really saying that the Texans are better than the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bills, or the Chiefs, right? As better teams. And then on the NFC, it's still at the top. You're thinking it's upcomers in the Packers, but the Eagles, Minnesota, and the Lions, who've been the ones for most of the year.
Yeah, it's sort of like throwing Green Bay into that mix is kind of like, like after this week and then just fucking killing Seattle, you're like, ooh, check it out. And then you got like someone like the Rams who are a bit of a floater where you're like, ooh, Jesus.
All of a sudden you don't want to run into those guys in the playoffs, right?
100%. I love it. It's awesome. But it's also one of those years of like, you have to take a chance. Like, don't let KC get a fucking three-peat. Like, Josh Allen, if you're ever going to win a fucking Super Bowl, it's this fucking year, mate. Like, let's go. So,
how important is home? Like, yeah, I know you just touched on it with the Lions vibes, but how important does home field feel this year? Like, the difference between if you've got the chance, if KC
drop 2
do lose, or they do lose Mahomes, they're like, all right, we'll rest him to keep him fresh. And resting players in the last couple of weeks is not foreign to Andy Reid. He got yelled at a number of times for doing it. If they want Mahomes ready for the finals, playoffs, then fucking yeah, and that's the time to put the foot down, right?
If Buffalo can
the Bills.
sneak out, like just keep running the table, and then they end up with the 1 seed and having to host, like if they make it through to an AFC title game, you'd be like, fuck yes, this could be it. And like, hopefully the Chiefs get knocked off before they have to play you, and you have to like maybe host like Baltimore or someone. You're like, fuck yeah, we can beat Baltimore. Like, that's awesome. Right, good bloke of the week. Who are we buying a beer? This one's Nicky Benito for me. Love this. He was the one who read that double pass against the Colts, and then ran it back for the pick six, or the fumble. It's a lateral, so again, not an interception, but grabbed his Benitos as he was jumping into the end zone backwards too. Love that. So he got a 15-yard penalty because he grabbed his nuts as he jumped in the air. It was absolutely gnarly. So that was pretty cool. But, what a fucking stupid play that was. But also, not good bloke of the week, good chick of the week, Haley Steinfeld. She's just pushed Josh Allen to another level. Bloke gets engaged. In those 3 weeks, he's got 852 passing yards, 168 rushing yards, 7 passing touchdowns and 6 rushing touchdowns and 0 interceptions, Gaz. Should they get re-engaged just before the start of the playoffs? What do you reckon?
Just do it.
Just break up now, start again in like a month's time. It's not bad. Like, Jesus. And Justin Jefferson giving the heart for Randy Moss, who, I mean, good bloke of the week. Randy Moss, we love him, and
going through a bit of cancerous time, recovering, and fingers crossed. You know, we never want to see anyone go through that, but a legend obviously hits that a little bit harder.
Yep. Old mate, no mates. Jonathan Taylor, obviously dropping the ball over the line, pretty dumb. I always love the fronting the media. It's like, yep, I had to apologize to my teammates. Like, yeah, no fucking shit, dickhead.
Yep, and everyone who had you for an anytime touchdown score, and anyone who had you in fantasy, and anyone who had, yep.
I did love this. Like, I hate people yelling about, you cost me X.
Yeah, of course.
On the internet. But there was someone who had like this insane double up, like on a $5 bet or some shit. It was like over $4,500. And the one thing was a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. You're like, oh, that is a kick in the dick. But anyway, it's called gambling. Just saying. Devondre Campbell, as I mentioned earlier, he got suspended 3 weeks.
He has to be
already
Flog of the week.
Already cleaned out his locker. Like, don't want to go in. And everyone's like, what? Like, nah.
And then just walked off before the end of the game.
Amazing.
It was all because, what was it? He was the starter and he got demoted, and then Greenlaw went down, so they actually needed him, and he's like, no, not doing it.
Chucked his toys out of the cot. Like, that's basically what the squid number 2 does. Like, he just does no, yucky. And I'm like, what did you say, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Shut up and eat your dinner. No. It's like, that's Devondre Campbell. And Dan Campbell, we love Dan Campbell. And the onside kick with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter might have been a bit much. And I kind of feel like he admitted that was a bit much too. Like, I love that Dan Campbell was so just angry at himself that he was berating Dan Campbell. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just like, yeah, Dan Campbell really let the team down. I'm Dan Campbell. I let the team down. It's like, yeah, that's Dan Campbell. He owned up to it. And it was a bit much. As it was happening, I'm like, this is, to be honest, it's a bit much. Because you've still got a lot of time left in this game. Because he just kicked the ball to the recovery rate on fucking onside kicks this year is like absurdly infinitesimal.
Terribly low. Yeah.
And yeah, going for it then is a bit fucked. Bit of Outback Takehouse for your Tuesday. I tell you what, backed over a Magpie, pulling out of the bloody driveway this morning. I tell you what though, makes bloody good flat bird. Chuck that in the grill, off you go. And it's only at Outback. And today's Flame Grill Take is Bill Belichick. Went to UNC and also said that he wanted the Jets job just to screw the Jets coaching application process because that's how much he hates the fucking Jets. Only at Outback. So this is an underrated thing that we didn't hit on at the top. He came out, was like, oh yeah, put in a call to the Jets about coaching. And everyone's like, did you? He's like, yeah, sure. My vibe on this is he called them and went, what do you reckon? And they're like, oh, yeah. He's like, okay, I'll get back to you. And then left them on red for like the next 8 months. Just like, nah. And they're like, no. Bill said he's keen. And he just never called them back. Absolutely ghosted them, fucked up their coaching search. He's like, fuck you, Woody Johnson, suck my fat ones. So the UNC thing, though, it is interesting because it's like, what job would have to come up, do you reckon, now for him to go, fuck this, I'm out of North Carolina?
Would it be... Yeah, I don't know. There has to be somewhere out there that he would enjoy almost like a revenge thing on Kraft, even though but not going with a hated rival.
Yeah.
So there'd have to be someone out there. Maybe would Indy be strong enough with the rivalry between Peyton and Brady back in the day?
Yeah, it's pretty
Would Indy be?
That's also, I don't know if he'd want to work for Jim Irsay. Like, I feel like that's so much of the Deflategate shit.
Because he'd need control, right? That's the other thing about him coming in. Like, what sort of team these days would be willing to have someone come in and just go, all right, he's the GM, he's his own GM, he's his own coach, and he gets to fill his entire staff, which is what he'd be asking for. Yep. So
it is weird. I feel like Jacksonville was like kind of right there for him. They're going to have like a super high draft pick, already got a QB. They've got a bit of talent on that roster. No one's going to tell him fucking boo, basically. Like, is Tony Khan going to be like, no, Bill, let me figure this out? And it's like, wait, aren't you the wrestling dude? So, like, it's just weird. Anyway, I feel like, Dallas was right there, but I reckon he might have looked at Dallas and went, that's just, it's a fucking mess. Like, that roster sucks. I just don't want to do it. Anyway, little Aussie battlers of the week. Daniel Falalale, Torrey Taylor, Jordan Mailata. The best one, though, Michael Dixon. On the old, broadcast, the primetime fucking torp, rips it, forces the fumble basically with the kick, doesn't he? Like, it's just fucking gnarly, and got a bit of shine. So that was very, very nice. I love it when that happens. Matty Hayball had a bit of work to do for the Saints as well, but good stuff there. On your Dicko. Very nice.
Excellent.
Quick little bit of Captain Fantasy. So I got knocked out this week, but that's okay.
Yeah, I was already knocked out, mate.
Yeah, you're already out. So. Yeah. But I believe there's a bloke on your team who did his hardest to save your season because Josh Allen had 93.26 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. That's the 5th most in any 2-game span in history, Gaz.
Yeah, unfortunately, season was already cooked.
I love the list, though. It's like Cloyce Box in 1950. I don't know if we're playing too much fantasy football back then, but
no. Jerry
Rice in 95 with 98. Well, so 100.5 was Cloyce. 98.84 was Jerry Rice in 95. Todd Gurley back in 2017, 94.6. Drew Bennett in 04. 94.3, and then Josh Allen, 93.26. Not bad. Anyway, so yes, from 8 and 6, I had my very slim chance of making the top 4 and making our playoffs this week. I had to knock off our number 1 ranked Ricky Williams Veggie Patch, and I did not.
Ooh.
So that's Matty C, not Matty O, Ricky Williams. And 139-110, he kicked my ass in the end. Thanks a lot to Cooper Kupp, just not fucking showing up on Friday at all and giving me the old double donuts. He also had a pretty solid one across the board, 25.8 from James Cook. I was like, ooh, Drake London, Bijan, carry me home. And they got a combined 26, and it just, with Kirk Cousins, he had the touchdown early to Drake and then did fucking nothing else. So Cooper Kupp really killed me. Good win, though, and especially once the KC defense was tearing up that fucking Browns one. I'm like, I think I might be cooked here, and I was. So anyway, but our final 4 for the NFL Straya Legends League, I think it will be locked in with Ricky Williams Veggie Patch as the 1 seed. I feel like Matty O got beaten, but I feel like he's still probably going to make it. Judo Chop Robinson got the win. So we'll make it as well. White Bronco in the sky. Oh, pulled out a win over you, Gaz. By point, what? Jeez, 0.9? That is absolute chaos. So that will make it. So I guess the question is whether or not Matty O beats out everybody else.
Gotta hold my breath for those fucking sweet adjustments, right?
Yeah. So 2 a weeks. That's McKeegan. He will get up there to 9 and 6 as well. And all you need is love. Also got a win, but I feel like Matty O will beat them out on the total points scored at the very least. So yeah. Good stuff. What a great year of fantasy it has been. It's been between the 12 teams. Apart from you, we've got basically the top 9 separated by like 2 games. So pretty nuts. And then there's Gaz right down the bottom. Anyway, not here to point fingers. Right, let's do it. Let's do some picks for next week. However, week 16 in the NFL. 3 weeks remaining. We've got some crackers this one. We've also got some games on our Sunday morning, which is very nice because college football is sort of moving to its thing. It means that we get some Saturday night football. But we start off Thursday night football, Denver at the Chargers. Chargers are 3-point favorites against the Broncos, which is a bit of an odd one, but is it, are the Chargers better than the Broncos?
Look, based on how Bo Nix played this week, and it was a bit of a fucky game, but I really do like that Denver defense. And I don't know. I'm vibing Denver this week, particularly if you're going to give me 3 points.
I might go the
3
Chargers.
3 points even? Are you saying it's 3 points even?
It's a 3-point even line at the moment. I'd actually have to go. Let's go check the other sides. See if we get a half point here or not. Yeah. 2.5. So I'm going the Chargers with the minus 2.5. I think they can win this. Feels like a absolutely knockdown, drag them out fight of a game. Mm-hmm. There are only 4 picks. I still believe. Yeah, we split the picks that we had different this week, so there's still 4 picks difference between Gaz and I. Gaz is leading by 4 at this point, so I might as well try to make up a couple. Houston at KC. This is all obviously dependent on Mahomes. I feel like he'll be out, so my pick is probably Houston for now, but that is to be advised.
Yeah. I just think it'd be funny if KC win by a point. I'm going to go KC because Carson Wentz comes in there. Just Kelsey and a few other Pacheco and a couple of things bail him out and that defense. And then all of a sudden we're looking at
interesting
proof that it wasn't Patrick Mahomes all this season. It was just that defense keeping him in.
Yeah, Houston
it also depends who's
Houston
playing.
is so scrappy. I don't trust them, but
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how we go. Yeah. Pittsburgh at Baltimore as well for the other Sunday morning game. The Ravens are 6.5-point favorites against the Steelers. I'm going to go the Ravens. That offense, I think, is that good.
Seems a lot considering that they're trailing the division by a game, but recency would show that Pittsburgh didn't look great, and obviously TJ Watt is likely out, and then Baltimore were fucking shit hot against a very, very poor opposition, obviously, but they were fucking great.
Yep. Atlanta hosting the Giants. The Falcons are 9.5-point favorites, apparently. Do you trust Atlanta to cover 9.5 against anyone, Gaz? Even the Giants?
But even because I reckon it's going to be, Tommy DeVito is out, right?
I think so.
So it's going to be Drew Lock, and I feel like Drew Lock could maybe keep that closer.
I'm actually going to go Atlanta. I don't. No, I can't do it. After they're against the Raiders, and the Raiders are horrible.
And it could be the one that he fucking comes out and Kirk plays mid-season Kirk rather than current Kirk. But
that one might flip and flop during the week. Detroit, Chicago. We have. Detroit are 6.5-point favorites, and on the road in Chicago. No defense. We're gonna have to go Detroit, right?
Yeah. There's also going to be a bit of a fucking attitude to Detroit in this game after just losing something that when your offense plays the way that they did, and I feel like this could be a get right game.
Yep.
Even with all that injuries.
Cincy 6.5-point favorites over the Browns. We're both going Cincy because the Browns are horrible.
Yep.
Indy, Tennessee. Weird game, but obviously this is only one team's got anything to play for. It does feel like Tennessee could play spoiler, but I still think Indy's probably a bit too good at home.
And like, are they going to jump back to Levis, or are we looking at Rudolph? Oh, I don't fucking know. But yeah,
do not like the Titans. Rams, Jets. This is a weird one. Rams are good. Jets are bad. Jets are 3.5-point underdogs at home.
Weird that like Jets only play half a game. Honestly, It seemed they've been playing with the league and then lead and then losing, or like this week was just like fuck it, and then you started slinging it around. But even at that point, as I said earlier, their fucking leading rusher was a 42-year-old, whatever it is, and the Rams are kind of heating up. So the smart money seems to be on the Rams.
Nice. Yeah, I just think the Rams offense is just way too good for the Jets. Even in New York, you can still just go like same as the way that they beat the Niners this week, right? Like just in the gross weather, boom, they still got it out. Philly, Washington. Washington are 3.5-point underdogs at home against the Eagles. I'm going to have to go Washington. Let's go.
I've got instant regret about this pick because this week, Jim, and I'm not a superstitious guy, but like this week I was like, 5.5, giving 5.5 points to fucking Pittsburgh. I'm like, I don't think we can take on that defense. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh for that. And then we dismantled them. And now you're only given 3.5 to fucking Washington. And I'm like, I think we can cover that. And then we're not going to cover that. But I'm going with Philly. Ride the hot hand.
Yeah. I'm going to say 27-24 Philly, Washington covered with the half point. Arizona at Carolina. The Panthers are 4.5-point underdogs at home. We've both gone Arizona. I just feel like it's Arizona running over the top of this Panthers team very much in a similar fashion. We saw
Shine might be a little bit off.
Yeah.
You
know. Dallas did the same thing, and I think that's what we might see again. Seattle, Minnesota. We've both gone Minnesota. Seattle are 2.5-point underdogs at home, but yeesh. If
Minnesota's just a better team.
And also, again, what did you say earlier? If you get after Geno, you can fuck Geno up. That's exactly what the Vikings do. So, that's actually now 3.5 too. So after today's game, still we'll take Minnesota even in Seattle. Buffalo, Pats. It's a 14.5-point line. That has changed.
That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points, but I still think Buffalo, the way they're playing right now, they just rang up 48 on Detroit. New England's defense is shit out, so Buffalo it is.
I've put this down without actually knowing the line. So next one's up?
Vegas. Jacksonville. Jacksonville are 1.5-point underdogs against the Raiders. Whoa. Yeah, I'm going Jacksonville as well. Like, the Raiders are horrible. Like, I might just go bet that now. Like, what the fuck? Even with Mac Jones, like, I don't give a shit on the road. San Francisco, Miami. This is a weird one. The Niners are 1.5-point underdogs against the Dolphins. Miami. I'm going to have to go the Niners as well. You've gone the Niners, Gaz. That makes sense.
Yep.
I do not like that Miami team at all. Tampa Bay, Dallas. Dallas are 4.5-point underdogs at home against the Bucks. It's indoors. It's Tampa Bay. Let's go Baker.
Jim, where did Dallas lose?
At home. So, yeah. The 4.5 is a little bit concerning, but I just don't know if Dallas will be able to put up enough points, whereas we know that Tampa Bay can score. So,
yep.
Yeah, going to go the Bucks. And then finally, New Orleans, Green Bay for Monday Night Football. 13.5 points there.
Oh.
Green Bay are favourites. 13.5.
It's a lot, and that's 134 points you just put down there, Jim.
Jesus.
Fuck. I think I have to go Green Bay.
I'm going to go Green Bay. That Saints team is just
Rattler showed a little bit of something in the second half, but fuck.
Lambeau in a night game, they're fucked. Saints, no chance. All right, but there you go. We're both going Green Bay. 4 different picks throughout the season separating us. We've got 3 different this week as well. Surely Jim will just pick them all up and it'll come down the last couple of weeks. Let's go. But that'll do us for episode 115 of NFL Straya. That was a good one too. In the meantime, make sure you're checking us a follow across the old socials, Twitter, Facey, IG, TikTok, YouTube, all the good stuff. Jump in the comments, say good day, send through any questions, any yeah-nahs. Get around all the other shows as well. NBA Straya show, which is out every single day. AFL Today, AFLW Today, the Cricket Today podcast. The boys are all over that. BBL's back. You've got the tests going on. Football Today as well as NBA. Oh, I already mentioned NBA Straya. Hold all tickets. That's the one. The GGs. Rate, review, star, subscribe. I don't know. Whatever else you got to do. You know? You click through, you give it the stars, you rate it, you review it. Jim and Gaz do a great job. Thanks. Yeah, that's how you do it, I guess. Whatever app you're using, the Android phone, Apple Podcast, Spotify, do all that. I don't have to fight you, but I will. I'm just saying. Gaz, you got any plugs?
Nah, I'm just looking forward to Christmas and getting the fuck out of this week.
Nice.
That'll be good.
As per usual. Programming note, though, we will continue on throughout the season. We'll do maybe an earlier show next week, but I think we essentially just go non-stop through next. There's just a shit ton of football next week because they're playing on Christmas and everything, so it should be pretty crazy.
Yep.
But even though I'll be taking a hiatus on NBA Straya, we'll still do this one because it's weekly and I can get around not getting stabbed by old mate for doing a show once a week rather than every day while on holiday. So it'd be good. Big thanks always go to House Hats for the intro and outro song. Go listen to their album. They are awesome. But I think that's it. Thanks, Gaz.
We're done.
All right. Well, I guess we'll catch you in a bit, you dickheads.
See yous.
Later, hoes.